Appreciate those questions. I now yield to Mr. Crane, the gentleman from Arizona, for his 5 minutes questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say thank you to the panel for showing up today. Appreciate all the information that you're bringing to this committee on challenges in the Arctic. I want to start with you, Admiral. What are your greatest concerns in your observations of the activity, the collaboration with Russia and China in the Arctic region?
So the greatest concern is that we know how Russia and China behave outside of the Arctic, and that sort of behavior might be imported inside the Arctic. I mean, to date, China has access through their icebreakers, and they're doing scientific examinations there. And but as we see fishing stocks moving forward, as we see it more attractive to do resource exploitation there, the challenge that we have is that we'll see similar behaviors from China and Russia that we see elsewhere in the world, which is directly undermining the global norms that we all enjoy.
Yeah, thank you, Admiral. And as a former sailor myself, I just wanted to acknowledge and say thank you for your service. I know you've spent a long time serving this country, and I think I speak for all of us on the panel when we say we appreciate it. I do want to go back into something you were talking about a second ago. You were not only talking about some of the needs that you have for some equipment, like these icebreakers that we've spent a lot of the time talking about, but I also want to talk about something you mentioned, the people that work for you and within the Coast Guard, and some of the recruiting issues that you guys are having. I want to see if, I want to ask your opinion. Why do you think you're, across the military, having so many recruiting issues?
Yeah, so as you said, we share this challenge with the other military services. COVID had a huge impact on things, and it wasn't really until COVID hit that we saw this dip in recruiting and retention for whatever reason. I think, and a lot of this would just be supposition, so I have to be careful, but I think it's set us back in terms of individuals wanting to get out there, serving their country, do something that's really challenging. And I think in the Coast Guard, what we suffer from most is exposure. People don't necessarily know who we are, especially young people who want a challenging and rewarding career in the United States military. We're getting after that. We've got a new campaign. We're opening up new recruiting offices. We're expanding our recruiting capacity by 38%. The numbers are starting to come back. So by early indications, we're having some successes.
So you think that COVID is the main reason that the military is having its recruiting issues?
I'm an optimist, sir. You hear these things about the eligibility because of weight and pharmaceuticals and stuff is lower in the average young population, that there isn't this propensity to serve. I hardly disagree. I think there are a lot of great young Americans out there who just don't know about the Coast Guard, that if they knew that we are law enforcement, that we're military, that we clean up the environment, that we serve the American people, I think we'll have a lot more folks coming in.
Thanks, Admiral. To follow up on that, do you think it might have anything to do with what you regularly hear is being described as some of the wokeness within the military, like CRT training, DEI training, drag shows on base, things like that? Do you think that has anything to do with it? And kind of a loss of the focus of what the military is supposed to be about?
I just don't see that in the United States Coast Guard, what you're referring to. And our workforce is the best workforce that I've seen in my 36-year career. The people who are in the Coast Guard today are better than ever before. A lot of them have college educations. A lot of them have had professional careers that want to do something different and better, and that come to us. So I don't think so.
You haven't seen any of that?
No.
You haven't seen a change in the culture of the military? How long have you been in, Admiral?
37 years.
That's, with all due respect, I find that hard to believe, sir. What about vaccine mandates, sir? You know that we lost about 30,000 active duty service members that refused to take the vaccine, that are now being asked if they want to come back into the service. What do you think about that?
We welcome them back.
Yeah, I know, but do you think that has anything to do with recruitment efforts? The military can be a pretty dangerous place to work, right? Admiral?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I left the military, sir, I was in E6, and I went into some of the most dangerous environments in the world, being in Special Forces. It was a lot easier for me. It was very easy for me to go into some of those spots knowing that my leadership actually cared about my well-being. But when service members, regardless of whether they're in the Marines, Coast Guard, Navy, etc., when they don't believe that their leadership is motivated by their well-being, but they're just, in the case of the vaccines, making them take experimental vaccines, knowing that the survivability rates were about 99.9%, and they didn't see the need for it, that's a problem. And it makes some of these young individuals question whether or not their welfare is going to be looked after, whether or not they're going to start a family and set down roots in a community and then be forced out for something like that. Do you think that has anything to do with the recruiting problem?
Well, Connor, so you've been there, right?
Yep.
Serving in really difficult situations. And, to your point, I know that Admiral Fagan, Master Chief Pastor Jones, the senior leadership team, we feel like we need to earn the respect of our junior workforce every single day. And we work hard to earn that respect by supporting them in their endeavors.
Do you think it was a mistake to force that many service members out because they wouldn't take an experimental vaccine?
I
know you got to be
I do
careful.
not have the luxury of being afforded an opinion on that, sir.
I understand. Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.